がここにいるうちの本物のスクールスポーツのために行こうぜベイビーバン手の国には気をつけて、現実になることがありますからね。
Alright, so Japan has a new world champion and his name is Kyosuke Takami. Now, yesterday was a very interesting day for boxing in Japan because, you know, Japan yesterday, they did lose one of their best fighters as a champion as far as, you know, him having titles. Kenshiro lost to Ricardo Sandoval. Tough decision, you know, it is what it is as boxing. When you leave fights close, things can always go either way. But they lost one, but they gained one. So they lost Kenshiro Taraji. They gained Kyosuke Takami. He wound up beating the brakes off of Eric Mini Pac-Man Rosa. And I'm going to tell you guys like this. Like, it's not shocking to me that he did that. Truth be told, out of all the fights on the main card, I always thought that Takami versus Rosa was going to be the easiest fight to pick. I picked Takami by stoppage. You know, he was just too big, too strong for a guy like Eric Rosa. Eric Rosa is a, you know, come forward guy, looks for the knockout. So I knew it wouldn't be hard for Kyosuke Takami to go find Eric Mini Pac-Man Rosa. And it got to a point where Rosa was getting beat up so much, he tried to box, but he couldn't anymore because Takami beat the fight out of him. So, you know, Takami wins every round and wound up breaking down Eric Mini Pac-Man Rosa to take his belt and become the WBA light flyweight champion and you know, another Japanese fighter, but a new Japanese fighter becoming world champion for the first time, you know, in these lighter weight categories. So let's talk about Takami because I've talked about Takami in the past. I made a video, I think it was back in January, about him. So I'm not unfamiliar with him. He's a good fighter. You know, I've been following him since before his last fight when he beat Toshiki Kawamitsu. Kawamitsu was a good fighter, and he beat the brakes off of him, beat the brakes off Rosa. So pretty much everyone he's been fighting in the pros for the most part, I mean, he hasn't had any split decisions, and almost all his fights have been knockouts. He's 10-0, 8 knockouts as the new world champion. So what's his ceiling like? How far can Takami go? Where does he stand in the light flyweight division? How good is he? Because it's hard to... He's obviously good. Anytime you can touch a world title, you're good. But there's levels of being good in boxing. Like, are you just like a title holder? Are you just a champion in the weight class, or are you a guy that can become undisputed? Are you a guy that can scale weight classes? Are you a guy that can make a run towards becoming eventually a pound for pound fighter like Kenshiro Taraji was? That is ultimately always a question when I judge how good a fighter is and what are his skills as far as his technique is concerned, right? So Takami has already shown that he's very good to become a world champion. That's number one. You know, in the fight against Rosa yesterday, he showed a sustained body attack. I think the most impressive thing about Takami, because he's a big light flyweight. So, you know, you look at his body, I think he could probably go as high as 115, maybe even 118. He's big. He's a big, strong guy. That being said, Takami, I think the best thing that stood out about him against Rosa was the body attack. He kept throwing the right hand he placed it around the sides, not the liver, but around like the liver, the stomach. He kept digging that right hand into his body. The right hand, the right hook to the body, the left hook to the body, and the straight right hand to the body. These were all key punches for Kyosuke Takami. So these are the punches that neutralized Rosa and allowed Rosa to not come forward and stay on top of him. So it's a good win. It's a good win. But if I'm being honest, it was easy to pick. I honestly think it was a mismatch. Even though Takami was a challenger and Rosa was the champion, I viewed it as a mismatch going in. And it was an even bigger mismatch than I thought it was when the fight actually took place. So there's that. But in this weight class, you know, right now you're gonna see the division go through some changes because you know he became champion yesterday. Last month in June at Corkin Hall, you had the Thailand fighter Thang Sak Simsiri. He beat Christian Araneta to win the vacant title. So you know he just became new champion. Takami just became new champion, and then you got the WBC champion Panya Prada Bisari from Thailand, who got a very controversial decision against Carlos Canizales back in December. They're having their rematch tomorrow, and right now it's July 31st as I'm shooting this, so it might be today as whenever I put this out, but tomorrow or soon, August 1st, Carlos Canizales is going to get his rematch for the WBC title. So it's possible that we could have another world champion there. And then you also got to factor in Rene Santiago. He just became champion back in I know was he's probably the oldest champion in the division as far as, yeah, he became champion in March. So crazy thing is, this division is just changing titles like hotcakes. The longest tenured champion is Rene Santiago, and he just became champion in March when he beat Shokichi Iwata. So those are the possible fights for Takami. I'd make Takami a favorite in against all the current champions. Now, if Canizales wins, if Takami has to fight Carlos Canizales, that's a different story because Canizales is really good. It's very debatable that you could actually make a pretty strong case that Canizales might be the best light flyweight in the division right now, even though he hasn't become champion again because he's been champion already. A lot of people thought he beat Kenshiro. He didn't get the nod like Ricardo Sandoval. They didn't care about him. He didn't have Golden Boy Promotions behind him like Ricardo Sandoval did. So he didn't get the nod. And he beat the brakes off this guy Panya the last fight in Thailand. But, you know, Thailand, they be on some bullshit sometimes. So there's good fights out there for Takami. But the funny thing is I think the best fights out there for him are the guys that aren't even champions yet. You know, and there's a lot of guys from Japan. You got prospects Dai Akira, you got Shokichi Iwata, and then you got my personal favorite and the guy that I think is going to eventually emerge to become potentially this guy's rival, Yuga Osaki. Yuga Osaki to me is a guy that has a chance to be the best light flyweight in the world, to be one of the best fighters from Japan, and I think he got a chance to be a world, not just a world champion, but a pound talent. I class Yuga Osaki higher than Kyosuke Takami because he can do what Takami can do, and he's got better footwork, and he's got better balance, and just those kind of things. So I think eventually he emerges and becomes champion himself. Probably goes the WBO route and wins the title if I had to make a prediction. But Takami is good. Takami is good. He's like a lot of Japanese fighters. He's one of those guys where he knows how to dish it, but we don't know how much he can take because he hasn't, like, he's fought some guys, he fought some punchers, he's not pillow fisted, he's got some durability, but he's one of these fighters that, you know, he hasn't really been in there with a multi-layered, dangerous fighter, a guy who can move, guy who can box, guy who can punch. You know, it's just been mostly Kung Fu guys. And truth be told, if I know anything about Mr. Honda and Tekken Promotions and how they move, if I had to make a prediction, I think he's probably going to wind up fighting the IBF champion Simsiri, because Simsiri, he's from Thailand, but he trains in, if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure he trains in Osaka, because I remember there was a boxing gym at that he trains at in Osaka. Yeah, he trains in Osaka, so he's like, even though he's not a Japanese fighter, he's a Japanese-based fighter. So I could see that being the unification fight he takes first. But we'll see, man. Takami's dangerous, and you got to be on your P's and Q's against you. But yeah, he's someone that yesterday for a lot of people opened up a lot of eyes against Eric Mini Pac-Man Rosa, and add him to the list of the illustrious history of Japanese fighters to win a world title. Japan's always been a boxing powerhouse. I think they have the fourth most world titles in the history of boxing behind the USA, Mexico, and UK. So they're up there, and they added, and his name is now in the fold as another one of these Japanese fighters to win a world title. So what did you guys think? If it was your first time seeing Takami fight yesterday, how good do you think he is? How good do you think he'll be? And yeah, leave your comments down below. Make sure you guys take the time to subscribe. And like I say in every single one of these videos, you can love me or you can hate me, but I'm just a kid from Daniel. So until next time, take care, guys. Thank you for watching another video on the untouchable True School Sports Empire. For more great boxing content just like this, make sure you guys stay tuned and subscribe. You won't be disappointed.